the Oscar nominations coming tomorrow, that means this week we also got the Razzie nominations. The Razzies are meant to be, with the golden raspberries, the worst movies of the year. And I have never liked the Razzies. I felt like it's like a really lame joke that a lot of times it's just punching down. Sometimes they've nominated children for worst actor, worst actress of the year, but it's like a really obvious joke picking on easy targets and then other stuff that I just don't think is particularly funny or interesting. But the Razzies have announced their nominations. Let's see how much of this feels like, yeah, these are, fair picks for the worst of the year, and how much of it to me is going to feel like really obnoxious, low-hanging fruit, obvious jokes in ridiculous shenanigans. So we'll dive into this real quick. The Razzie nominations. And this is an article from Deadline listing them off. Looks like Joker, Megapolis, and Madam Web among the biggest losers. No surprise there. So I want to save before we get to our look at the worst movies of the year. We've got to build up to worst of the year. So worst screen combos. I guess they're having fun. We've got obnoxious characters in Borderlands, unfunny characters in Unfrosted, the entire cast of Megapolis, Joaquin Phoenix and Lady Phoenix of Joker Folie à Deux, and then I guess the two leads in Reagan. My initial thought on this, 4 of these go like, yeah, these are bad movies with combinations that didn't really work. And one at the bottom where you go, well, one of these is not like the others. Like one of these, this feels like the inclusion here is something entirely different. If you look at my lit picks of some of the worst and most disappointing movies of the year, you will see many of the other films on this list, and one you will not see is the movie Reagan. So just real quick, if you scroll through here, you will see some other appearances of Reagan all along the way. And I'll immediately just tell you right here, this is what I'm talking about. Just like really lame, out of touch insider humor that, are we really picking the worst of the year, or are we picking on an easy target for insiders? I have not seen Reagan, so I can't actually speak to its quality. But real quick, what I can do is I can pull up the Rotten Tomatoes page for it. And what do we see on the Rotten Tomato page for this movie? Probably the biggest gap this year between critics and audiences. Like that's a little bit of a split there, 80-point split between audiences and critics on this movie. And it does not take a genius to figure out why. It's a political movie. And so the audience members that went to go see it, 95% of them are over 50 and voted for Ronald Reagan in the 1980s. And critics are in LA and are largely in LA and largely to the left and not fans of Ronald Reagan. So all of a sudden, we're doing the Razzies, and this movie that its target audience loved it, but critics were like, it's just a puff piece for Ronald Reagan. Probably not wrong, but also worst movie of the year. You can just look at other movies, just stop and think about the movies you watched that you hated. Cynical streaming movies, just like the output from the Sony Spider-Man-less universe, The Crow. You can go through all these terrible things that came out, a lot of them comic book movies, and we're picking on Reagan. Like, come on now, we're not stupid. We know exactly, this is an insider joke from... like, it's entirely political in nature. It does not correspond to what actual people that saw the movie outside of critics felt about it at all. So just a really stupid, lame joke. So kind of worst director of the year. A lot of the obvious ones in here. If you look at my worst of the year, 3 of these movies were in my worst of the year. I didn't see Megapolis because I only heard terrible things about it. So I was like, I'm just too busy to watch a movie just to not like it. And then Todd Phillips for Joker Follow You Do. Is it like what actual worst directed means? Was it the worst concept for a Joker sequel? Sure. But actually worst directed. Is it actually the worst directed? On the thing that the director does. Worst? When you're looking at like Madam Web and the incompetence of like that whole thing, like when you look at Borderlands and Madam Web, it's tough to even blame the director because they're just these overproduced nightmare things that too many cooks in the kitchen. So it's tough to even blame the director on them. But in the case of Joker Follow You Do, if you think it's the worst movie of the year, I get where you are coming from. But worst directed, is it actually a poorly directed film to the degree of being the worst of the year? I would argue that the direction is not the problem with it. It is the concept. All right, worst supporting actress, Ariana DeBose for Argyle and Kraven the Hunter. That's actually, this is, poor her, but I don't actually remember what she did in Argyle, so I can't speak to that. She won an Oscar for, was it West Side Story? And then like the next day got on a plane and went shot Argyle. She is horrible in Kraven the Hunter. Or excuse me, she went and shot Kraven the Hunter. Won the Oscar, shot Kraven the Hunter. She's horrible in Kraven the Hunter. Which she was in a movie that premiered at Fantastic Fest. I was at the world premiere of House of Spoils, or was that what it was called? She's so fun. She's super charismatic as a human being, like funny, engaging, wooden as can be in Kraven the Hunter. Just fair enough to put it there. I haven't seen Reagan. I can't actually comment on the performance, but I doubt it. This is the Razzies are to the left and Reagan is to the right. That's all this looks like to me. Emma Roberts, Madam Web, I don't remember anything bad about her performance. That was not my takeaway from that movie. Amy Schumer, just because she's Amy Schumer, I'll give it a pass. And the Crow is not good. The performance wasn't the thing that I thought was the problem there. Supporting actor, I think Kevin Hart and Jack Black are overplayed, but that's what this is. Worst performance? No. They're just two actors that have maybe oversaturated, appeared too much, so we're picking on them. That's what this is. Once again, Jon Voight. Jon Voight, appointed by Trump to the Save Hollywood, whatever, ambassador, whatever it is. And then legendary actor Jon Voight, nominated by the Razzies for every performance he gave in the year, including being in a movie about a Republican president. That's what I'm talking about. Like, we're not actually looking at the worst of the year. We are picking on targets. And I don't even remember. Okay, so as supporting actor, I guess that's the villain in Madam Web. That, granted, I'll give you that one. Yeah, the villain in that one was terrible. I don't know, it was 80 hours a mess. Moving on up. Cate Blanchett in Borderlands, worst actress. Borderlands is a mess. Cate was horribly miscast, according to everything I've heard about I haven't played Borderlands. Everyone tells me she's 30 years too old, 20 years too old to play the character. Miscast? You actually want me to believe Cate Blanchett gave one of the worst performances of the year? No, of course she didn't. And then Lady Gaga in Joker. Joker. A lot of problems. Lady Gaga, not fantastic, but also not terrible. That's why the Razzies drive me crazy. Because it's like nonsense. It's just picking on like easy targets. It's just low-hanging fruit. Bryce Dallas Howard in Argyle. Argyle, I enjoyed it more than most. A lot of people really didn't like it. The question is not, is Argyle bad at the moment? Did Bryce Dallas Howard give a bad performance? The worst performance? No, she did not. What are we doing? So moving on right to actor. I haven't seen Dear Santa. Once again, Jack Black is the target for the year. Oversaturated. We're picking on him. So Jack Black is on there. Who else is on here? Zachary Levi for Howard and the Purple Crayon. I haven't seen the movie. Movie's been picked on a lot. Is he good at playing a man-child? Yes, he is. So do I believe he was? The problem with that movie is Zachary Levi's a bad actor. Or is he on this list because of who he supported in the last election and the behavior he represented over the last, 4 months, kind of since Harold and the Purple Crayon came out. But is the actual worst performance? Joaquin Phoenix, worst performance for Joker? Was his performance as good as the last movie? No. The one where he won an Oscar. He won an Oscar in this franchise playing this character for this director. So it's fun to pick on him. But it's stupid. It's not the worst performance. So you're going through our worst actors, worst actresses. How many of these actually feel like they belong here? Jerry Seinfeld, I'll give you Jerry Seinfeld, maybe. Like, he's not a great thespian. He's a funny person, but he's not a great thespian. And like the guy from Madam Web, the villain Madam Web, gotcha. Everything else is just cheap, easy jokes. Of course, Dennis Quaid is in here's Reagan, of course, because we're just picking on a movie that 98% of the people that saw the movie went, that was a good movie. They have their political biases as to why they said that, but the fact that it's included here, we know what you're doing. So then we get to our pick for the worst movies of the year. Borderlands, that was on my list. It belongs on this list. Madam Web, it was on my list. It belongs here. Megapolis, didn't see it. Have heard, because I heard terrible things about it. Not going to argue on it. Joker, I disagree with that. I think it was very disappointing. I don't think it's the worst of the year. Somewhat even because I disagree with placing Todd Phillips, Joaquin Phoenix, and Lady Gaga on here. There was just a lot of actual talent on display telling a story that was incredibly ill-conceived and a concept for a movie that was a bad idea. But there was talent on display. So I object to Joker being included, but I get it. I get why it's here. And then, once again, we've got Reagan in there that, in case you missed it, we'll pull it up one final time to close this out. But Reagan, its audience score is a 98%. 98%. An 80% swing between critics and audiences. That's not good. There's a problem when things like that happen. And in the case of a movie about a political figure, everyone knows exactly what it is. Exactly why there's a disconnect. And Razzies are joining in on that fun, but I don't believe for a second that this is one of the worst movies or worst directed movies. Is it like just a very mid movie that throws red meat to its target audience? I'm sure that's what it is. It's a movie catering to a very specific group of people over the age of 50, which is why its score is so high, because it's to such a niche group. But the worst, no, there's literally a lot of incompetent garbage that came out this year that you didn't include because you wanted to pick on the political movie. So I don't like the Razzies. I have never really liked the Razzies. And this list is once again an example of it. We want to pick on these obvious, easy targets, and it doesn't matter that what we're saying is stupid. These are not the worst performances. This is not the worst director, but the movie that they were a part of is an easy target, so we're picking on it. That's not funny. That is lazy. Most of these clips are pulled from my Patreon live streams. I do about 6 live streams every single month. For $2 per month, $20 per year, you can get access to all the exclusive videos and live streams. For $5 per month, you get your name on my end card. At the top tier, you get a 30-minute video chat with me each month. The link down below in the description has more information.